Hello everyone, welcome to a walkthrough of the assignment 8. I'm going to try to break this into a few parts so that you can figure out the exact question, because some of us might have been okay with rec listed some numbers, and some of us might have struggled a bit with the GUIs. So again, there's around 5 problems for this one. Let's double check. There'll be 5 problems, so each of these parts, part 1, part 2, will cover each of those problems separately. So for our first problem, we're going to be looking at the rec listed sum of numbers. This one is a bit more straightforward from ones that we've seen before, very similar to what we've done with checking for base cases with lists. So essentially what's going to happen is we can either pass in a list of numbers that is a single list or is nested. So essentially something like this, where there's a list within a list. And the way that we can check for this at the start here is we're going to first check if the length of our list is equal to 0. And now, because we're summing up the elements of this list, we want to make sure that we're consistently returning a number so that we can add on in all of our return statements. So I'm going to return a 0. Now, what we saw earlier is that we want to make sure that we're just summing up numbers such as floats or integers. It looks like in our code it was only ints right now, but we can also do the same for summing up floats. What we could say here is if my type of list of 0 is of a type int, what I want to do is try to add in that list of 0 to the remainder of my recursive calls. So I'm going to try to do here is return list of return list of 0. Again, this is different from returning the list of, or just returning 0 up here. And not only do I want to return list of 0, but I want to add on the remainder of our list here. So I'm going to do the recursive call on the remainder of my list, like so. Awesome. Excuse me. So that will go ahead and return each of these remainder of the items of our list here. And our next phase that we want to try to do here is if I try to run this code. Oops, let's see here. So this guy isn't working for us. I get an unexpected, there it is. Sorry about that. You'll see that I'm getting none still. So what's happening next is that not only am I encountering the list of 0 items here, let me also try to uncomment the test of that one. That would help as well. Let me go ahead and comment these guys out. It looks like I'm getting 0 for the first one, so my list of 0 is good, but now I'm still remaining with these nuns. So to actually fix this up, what I could say here is I also need to check if the type of my list, of 0, the scenario that we usually look for is if it's not an integer, maybe it's a string or something. But what we also need to look for here is if my type of list of 0 is of type list. And you'll notice here that list is a built-in item inside of our Python code. So now what happens if my type of 0 is a list? Well, what I want to do is not just do a recursive call on the remainder of list of 1, but I'm also going to need to return a recursive call on list of 0, because list of 0 is the actual list that I'm on. So what I'll do here is actually something like this, where I go and return from the list of 0 and the remainder of the list there. And we'll see now, once I actually implement that code in there, where you have list of 0 is that list, it looks like I'm getting 55, 5, 21, and 30. So it looks like the code's working pretty well. Awesome. So again, this was the first one with the rec list sum of numbers. You can also do if statement checks if you want to check for strings and floats. I'll actually do that now for us. Let's just say if our type of list of 0, instead of being an int, is actually a string, what we could simply do is do that normal return statement where we return the remainder of the list. We're essentially skipping over it. And if we look at this example, let's try to put an A in here. We'll see that our code doesn't change at all. It's still working just fine. But if I actually remove this guy here, we'll see that I get the unsupported operator types for none type and int. So we want to make sure that you can leave that if statement in there. Just make sure it's running for us. Cool.